can see that we have present councillors Allison, Anderson, Clark and Cowie. Just check if we have Councillor Fagan. I'm not seeing Councillor Fagan. Councillor Falconer. I'm not seeing Councillor Falconer. I have apologies from Councillor Ferguson, and I can see that Councillor Donnelly has joined as a substitute. Also present today is Councillor Frame. Councillor Fulton. No, not seeing you. Councillor Gray. I see that you have joined remotely, Councillor Gray. Also present today are Councillors Hamilton, Johnson Dempsey, Keat, Kerr and Lambie. I have apologies from Councillor Lockhart. Also present today are Councillors Logan, Loudon, Mars, McAllen. Councillor McGeever? No, not seeing you present. I have apologies from Councillor Razak. I am expecting Councillor Devlin to join, so I'll keep an eye out for that. I also have apologies from Councillor Scott, and I can see that Councillor MacDonald has joined as a substitute. Also present today are Councillors Thompson, Walker and Watson. We have external reps Jennifer Gaffney and Joan Lennon in attendance, as well as a number of officers. And with that, I'll pass you back to the Chair to commence today's business. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth Ann. Is there any declarations of interest? No, not seeing any. Minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 14. I'll ask for this to be approved.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you very much. The monitoring items, education resources, revenue budget monitoring 2023 to 24, which is pages 15 to 18. And I'll ask Louise to speak to that. Thanks, Louise.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. This is the fifth report to committee this morning on the 23-24 revenue budget, covering the period 1st of April through to the 23rd of February this year, which is period 12 of our financial year. Paragraph 4 on page 15 outlines the budgeted position for the Scottish Attainment Challenge funding. And for the PAEF programme, as at the 23rd of February, we've spent 8.369 million, with 1.497 million still to spend. And this includes all the known staffing up to the end of March. The anticipated carry forward for the year 23-24 for PAEF is approximately 400,000. We reported at the last committee that this underspend was to be used to support the pay agreements in the short term, and given the low level of anticipated carry forward, the Scottish Government have now confirmed that the PAEF underspend will not be required to fund the pay award, with the required funding for the Council having been received, and it will be therefore carried forward in the normal way at the 31st of March and used in the new school session April to June 24, and that's in line with the standard PAEF guidance and what has happened every other year. This will be transferred to reserves at the 31st of March to meet the spend and commitment that schools still have for this funding. In relation to the strategic equity funding, the spend and commitment to date is 1.404 million, with 69,000 still to spend by the end of the financial year. Again, all the known staffing costs are committed within that position. So, committee will continue to be updated, and in the year-end report will report the final position for both programmes. So, turning to the main financial implications of the report, at paragraph 6.1 and page 16, Education reported an outturn position at the last committee of an overspend of 295,000. There were no proposed transfers to reserves. However, this will now reflect the change to the PAEF carry forward at year end, given the change around the pay award funding. The overspend is the net effect of underspends in that early years code budget, including the over-recovery of fees, offset by overspends relating to mainstream transport costs and the costs of school placements, which are demand-led. There is also an overspend in our teacher costs due to cover, which is being offset by an underspend in our early years staffing, again due to vacancies and turnover. The position at the 23rd of February, period 12, is an overspend of 170,000, and the detailed variance explanations are outlined in the Appendix A for the resource. Given the time of the committee and where we're reporting today, we are in the middle of the year-end process for closing off the final financial position for the year for the resource and other resources, and I can update that we are in the position will be in line with the forecast outturn of around 290,000 overspend, and this is allowing for all our pressures in year. Committee will be updated at the next committee with the final year-end position for 23-24 and the most recent report in the new financial year at that time at the next committee in August. In terms of the two areas of financial risk we've highlighted to the committee before, firstly, the cost of transport. We are anticipating a final cost of around slightly over £4 million, overspend of over slightly around £4 million this financial year, and this has been managed within the overall position as reported as part of the probable outturn, and this included the use of our reserve balances. On the teachers' numbers, just an update, we have maintained our teacher numbers as part of the Census 23 position, and there was no impact on the grant funding for 23-24 with the full £2.924 million being received. In relation to 24-25, the Council has now received notification that the allocation of funding for teachers nationally of £1.45 million for 24-25 will be distributed via special resource grants. These have been withheld initially from councils, and grant funding will be conditional on councils agreeing at the outset to maintain our teacher numbers. So discussions are ongoing with local authorities, COSLA and the Scottish Government in terms of this position and the timing, and updates will be provided to committee in due course. In terms of our budget variants, these are set out at the bottom of Appendix A and reflect initial budget movements to education's budget from the last reported on the 28th of December through to the 23rd of February. So they reflect creation of budget and receipt of general revenue grant we've received for training associated with school support assistants, realignment of budget to reflect our PEF and our SEF programmes and general service delivery movements, and also the standard realignments to reflect how the schools use their budget within the devolved management scheme and our EMA payments. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the forecast outturn to the 31st of March of an overspend of £295,000 as detailed in Appendix A of the report be noted, that an overspend of £170,000 as at the 23rd of March as detailed in Appendix A of the report be noted, and that the proposed budget variants are approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. The recommendations are on page 15, as just said. I'll take some questions. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning, everybody. Quick question, 6.2, we've obviously got cost of transport. And there, I keep getting asked about this. I'm sure I'm not alone today either. Do we have any update on when we're going to get the final report on the school bus consultation, and is it still likely to be slated before the summer recess? Thanks.
Carol.
Thank you, and good morning, committee. Apologies, I've left my badge on my desk upstairs, so I'm using Gavin's badge here. Yes, Councillor London, the timescale, as was set, is going according to plan. So the consultation obviously closed and a final report is being produced, and that will go live on Friday, which will precede the committee paper, which will then follow up as part of the normal committee cycle. The committee paper will obviously reflect that final report with the expectation at this stage that the paper will be taken to Exec Committee on, I think, the 26th of June for decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Very much, Chair. First of all, thank the officers. It's a tremendous job to do it, and it's extremely difficult circumstances, and the biggest resource probably money-wise in the whole of the council. Just the transport one at £4 million overspend seems a lot. Is there any way we can cut back on that at all, or look into doing something in the future?
Yeah, Councillor Thompson, I think that it is the way that we're looking at that is through the consultation on the mileage of going between 2 and 3 miles, and that is part of the way that we're looking, that consultation that's taking place, which is well documented. So I don't think I need to go to any officers on that. So if there's nothing else on that, can I ask you to agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Education Resources Capital Budget Monitoring, which is pages 19 to 22, and I'll ask Louise to speak to that. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. It's Lorraine, not Louise, sorry. but it's fine. All begins with an L. So
Sorry, you wish.
Education Resources Committee we've got the normal capital programme, and we are presenting the 5th report of the current financial year. And again, it takes you to the 23rd of February, same period as the revenue budget. So section 3 gives you the background to the report and advises the budget was reported to Exec Committee in early March at 14.268. And since then, at the Executive Committee meeting on the 8th of May, we've got an increase to the programme, which is an additional amount of £69,000 of funding. And we've added that into the programme, so we now have a full programme for the year of 14.337, and that's noted in Appendix A on page 22 for your information. Section 5.1 then picks up on the financial implications, specifically noting the 14.3 million. Section 5.2 then picks up on the outturn for the year, and just as we previously reported, we were looking at anticipated spend of 14.3 million as a working projection at the time of writing that report. Similar to revenue, we're looking at finalising the current year position, and that's noted in section 5.3. We're looking to finalise the position across all the projects, including any year-end accruals, and looking at final accounts for projects. And we'll pull together that overall position and report that as part of the Executive Committee in June. And then we'll come back to the Education Committee in August time with a final position for your information. In terms of the period 12 position itself then, in section 5.4, we noted then anticipated spend of 11.6 million and spend to the 20th of February totalled 11.7, nearly 11.8. So we were about 144,000 ahead of profile. Again, these projects had come up, I think, last time when we were at committee, and it's really the early works on Uddingston Grammar School, Our Lady of Lourdes Primary School spend and Jackton spend in terms of the time and the profile of spend for those projects in the current year. In terms of these overspends, they are offset by underspends within the Wood Dean Early Learning Centre, which I can confirm was handed over in late April, and the First Steps Community Nursery Extension adaptations in Hamilton, and that is still scheduled to be handed over in, I think, the first week in June. So I'll be looking to refer committee back to the recommendations in section 2 of the report and ask that the Education Resources Capital Programme of 14.337 million and expenditure to date of 11.771 million be noted, and that the projected outturn of 14.3 million be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. It's good news that Wood Dean has been handed over. That's really positive. The recommendations are on page 19. Is there any questions? No question. Cal?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question, just like you said, to welcome the handover of Wood Dean Early Learning Centre and my Bovill and Uddingston ward. It will be of great use to our growing young family population. I was going to ask about First Steps, but the officer got in there before me. Thanks.
Thanks very much for that. If there's no further questions, can I ask committee to agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5 is workforce monitoring, the January to March 2024, which is pages 23 to 30, and it's Eileen.
Thank you. So this is the standard employment information for the resource covering the period January to March 2024. So section 4.1 outlines the attendance statistics for committee, and the details are in Appendix 1. So the absence rate for the resource for March was 5.7% compared to a council-wide figure of 6.3%. This is decreased by 0.3% compared to the previous month, and compared to the same period last year, the figure remains the same. There's a projected annual average for the resource of 4.5% compared to a council-wide figure of 5.4%. Resource managers continue to follow the maximising attendance procedures and work with personnel colleagues to ensure that all the supports are in place to enable employees to return to work and that all the appropriate actions are taken. Section 4.2 to 4.5, the details are in Appendix 2, and the main points are: during the period, there was 639 occupational health referrals, there was 13 disciplinary hearings, there was 1 grievance, and there was no dignity at work issues raised. During the period, there was 535 accidents or incidents reported, and there was 60 leavers eligible for an exit interview, and 32% of them completed exit interviews. Details of the posts that became vacant during the period are in Appendix 2, and 123 posts became vacant. 112 of them will be filled. 2 posts were filled on a fixed-term contract, 2 were ended due to a fixed-term contract, and 7 posts were held pending a review of service. So I'm referring committee back to section 2 and ask that the workforce monitoring for education resources covering the period January to March 2024 be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. So the recommendations are obviously on page 23, as Eileen said, and I've got a question from David Watson.
Thanks, Chair. I was listening recently to an article on the radio regarding the ongoing issue of discipline in schools with verbal and physical assaults on teachers, which seems to be raising its head again and is a concern to the trade unions. Have we got a picture of where we are in South Lanarkshire? I know we spoke about this before at committee, and there was a registering process in place, but I think there was some concern about how effective that was and how thoroughly it was getting monitored and used. So maybe just have some comment on that. Thanks.
Yep. Eileen? Carol or Eileen?
Provide an update on that. First of all, we're not shying away from the fact that this is an issue, and it is a national issue. We have a tsunami of need within our schools. We have children and young people who are presenting with really complex and significant issues. We do note that perhaps the recording system needed updated, so we have undertaken a bit of work along with our colleagues from Health and Safety to try and get a more responsive and bespoke way of recording these kind of incidents for the education resource, because currently the system that we use applies to, you know, for example, you know, bin men or people that work in the community. And actually what we're looking for is some more detail around the incidents within our schools. So we're moving towards the position where these reports will provide some further information, for example, and obviously will be anonymised, but a breakdown of incidences by perhaps the age of the pupil, etc. We can't make that system go live until Fusion is fully up and running. So that's likely not to be able to go live until the autumn term. I think the other observation I would have is that we are working under a policy of presumption of mainstream, which means that wherever possible, we need to accommodate all our young people within mainstream environments. And this doesn't come without its challenges. I know Anne and Sam March, who's here today, and her whole team are working on this on a daily basis to try and support schools. We have been given some additional funding by the Scottish Government. We were given £53,000 to look at this issue, and what we've done with that within South Lanarkshire is we're moving towards a plan of getting all our support assistants trained over a rolling period, and that will be face-to-face training where all support assistants will get the chance to go through some of the materials, some of the excellent materials that we use, and make sure they have got every opportunity to be upskilled to face the challenges, and undoubtedly there are challenges they face. So I would be confident to say, you know, it's not where we want to be. You know, our schools are a microcosm of society and they are dealing with challenges. We don't have a lot of resources at our disposal, and we are very aware that as the budget process rolls out, you know, there's going to be challenges ahead for all of us, but we're doing as much as we can with the resource we have to try and keep this issue live. And I know we've got our representatives here from the trade unions. This is a very live issue for us. It's not one we're hiding from or we're ignoring. We are trying to do as much as we can, as I say, with the resources we have at our disposal, and willing to learn from, you know, anybody in different authorities who has who has it cracked, if you like, but the evidence that I'm getting is that there is no easy answers to this nationally.
Thanks. Yep. You went back in.
Thanks, Gareth, for that. And I get it, it's a complex issue. Is there a mechanism that maybe this committee could be kept up to speed with that and some of the findings that come out on a regular basis? Thanks.
Absolutely. We're going to bring a full paper, probably to the next committee, I would imagine, just pulling together all the information we have around this particular issue, including the reporting mechanisms, but more importantly, some of the proactive measures that we're taking. And I've already started pulling some information together, so we'll share that with the committee. And as committee cycles move on, and we do introduce maybe a more nuanced system of reporting, we should be able to bring some more live information to you. So absolutely, you have our commitment in that.
Thank you very much for that. And it is a really important and live issue that it does have its place to be discussed. So it's really good that there is a paper coming to the next committee. And I know that we have been discussing it with the EIS and the trade unions to make sure, because it is a national issue, and you can see that by the problems it's been having in the media lately as well. But ultimately, the funding needs to come with that issue, and £53,000 isn't an awful lot of money for the amount of the height of what the issue is. But thanks for bringing that up, David. It's really important that it's discussed. And if there's no further questions, then I would ask the committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Going on to the items for decision, item number 6 is Health and Wellbeing Census, which is pages 31 to 36. And I'll invite Anne, and I think Sam's going to take it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide an update regarding some of the background related to the National Health and Wellbeing Census for Children and Young People, and to seek approval to conduct a large-scale health and wellbeing survey of primary 6 to S6 pupils across South Lanarkshire schools on a cyclical basis. And I'd like to invite Sam March, Principal Educational Psychologist, to present the report. Thank you.
I do have an ID badge, but it's not working. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Anne. I would like to draw members' attention to section 3 of the report, background. In particular, I'd like to draw your attention to paragraph 3.1, which notes our COVID-19 parent, child and young person surveys completed in 2020 and their usefulness in supporting recovery planning in schools, while paragraph 3.4 noted our previous engagement with the Realigning Children's Services Programme in 2016 and how this supported strategic planning in children's services. Turning to paragraph 3.5, the rationale for a Scotland-wide health and wellbeing census is noted, in particular the conclusion that previously delivered local surveys did not provide sufficient, consistent or timely enough data to support regular reporting at local authority level, exploration of inequalities within and across local areas, and were not useful at national level. Challenges included small sample sizes and lack of overtime comparison. Paragraph 3.6 notes a range of benefits to completing a census scale survey at school, authority and national level, whilst paragraph 3.7 notes importantly, that the census ownership remains with the local authority and there is autonomy over what questions are included or added. Paragraph 3.8 notes the range of topics covered in the 2021-22 core census and the P5 S6 age range, and reminds members that South Lanarkshire did not take part in that survey at that time. Paragraph 3.9 notes the engagement rate from local authorities last time and some of the core national findings, whilst paragraph 3.10 notes some of the challenges with the survey last time, including specifically relating to the sexual health and relationships section. Also noted in that paragraph is the right to withdraw for parents and for pupils who can opt to not take part at all, omit sections, or omit individual questions. Section 5 notes key implementation points, making clear in paragraph 5.1 that in order to have effective implementation in South Lanarkshire, it will be essential to ensure that the approach taken to the survey is bespoke and meets the needs of South Lanarkshire's stakeholders. Specifically, questions around sexual health and relationships are only included where they're not overly invasive and are vital to feed into partnership planning, for example, around initiatives relating to gender-based violence. Effective arrangements are needed to be in place to ensure compliance with legislative, information management and legal responsibilities. For example, in ensuring a privacy agreement and data protection impact assessments are both in place. Also, it will be essential to ensure a children's rights-based approach through consideration of a children's rights impact statement and through thorough consultation with children and young people. And also that appropriate safeguarding arrangements are in place to which children and young people can be signposted for support. Additionally, a robust approach to consent is in place that offers children, young people and parents the option to opt out. Moving on to section 6, consultation, and paragraph 6.1, consultation in relation to the health and wellbeing census has taken place to date with a group of head teachers of non-denominational and denominational schools and wider agency partners, including the Children's Health Commissioner for Lanarkshire and Health Improvement Officers, and a range of partners in the GERFEC Strategy Group and Children's Services Health and Wellbeing Thematic Group. In addition, scoping with authorities who were involved in 2021-22 has taken place to gauge the challenges and benefits of implementing a large-scale survey. I would ask members to note that further in-depth consultation will be essential to ensure the approach takes into account the views of our stakeholders. Those stakeholders include children and young people, parents and parent groups, schools and church groups. Members will appreciate that it's vital to ensure there's an effective communication strategy regarding the health and wellbeing survey, if agreed, to ensure that information in the public domain is accurate and objective, and South Lanarkshire's considered approach to delivering a health and wellbeing census is fully understood. Returning then to the recommendations in section 2, paragraph 2.1, the committee is asked to agree the following. The background related to the health and wellbeing census for children and young people is noted. That South Lanarkshire engages in a large-scale survey of children and young people's health and wellbeing for pupils D5 to S6. That in order to provide ongoing evidence of progress in this area, this survey should be repeated on approximately a 3 to 4 year cycle, and that, if possible, the survey is linked to any future extension of the National Health and Wellbeing Census and core content is established. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. The recommendations are on page 31. I will take Alec Allison's question.
Not really a question, Chair. This does cause a lot of angst with many parents. I think 6.3 is very important about how we are going to manage what questions are asked, and I think that will be welcome. But could we do more to ensure that parents are aware that they can opt out of this if they so wish? You've said that it does happen, but can we do more to ensure their awareness?
Absolutely. I think it would be really important to have a frequently asked questions established that is really accessible for in a range of ways for parents to know about the survey. And that would be part of that, the opt-out within it.
Thanks. Councillor Lydon.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Sam, for going through that. And I'd like to say thanks to Anne Donaldson as well for our input prior to the meeting. I thought it was especially helpful to have the benefits outlined as they have been here and what's been found from previous local authorities who completed the survey, and just to get an overview of how this data can be used, and particularly how it can be used with partnership, working as well with other stakeholders. There'd previously been quite a lot of heat and light about this, as we all know, and it's safe to say not all of it had necessarily been particularly well informed at the time, so it's really good to get this background and to have this overview about how it has been used, how it will be used, how it will be used by stakeholders. I think the most important part for our group that we'd wanted to check out before was just an assurance that what's being proposed is useful for planning, both internally and with partners. So to have a sort of idea of what other local authorities have been able to do with it is really helpful. And also, of course, that young people themselves are being consulted, so it's really good to see that that line is in there as well. I think our main concerns with the paper through after a first read through was the rationale about some questions being missed out. So thank you for a bit more explanation about that. We do have in 4.6 that it was a sorry, I should have given a page number there as well. I'm dealing with multiple windows. About the idea of, some of these questions were answered in very low numbers by young people. So I guess I'd just like to know, is that really the main driver for why we're looking at these? Because it wouldn't necessarily be useful data if it was very, like a small amount, essentially.
We've looked very carefully at the particularly problematic relationships and sexual health section, and there's probably 8 questions in there from beforehand, and low response from young people was one of the factors. 4 of the questions are felt to be just quite invasive, and I think it would be probably useful from as a starting point just to say and reassure all parties that those 4 questions are not part of our plan. The kind of problems versus the benefits from them is just not stacked in the right direction. So it's a mixture of things in terms of questions, and we're open-minded to the other questions, which are more around gender-based violence, which are useful, I think, and do fit in with Scottish Government COSLA strategies around equally safe and that agenda. So they're much more vital, and I think they could be developed, and they might be shaped in some way. One other authority kind of felt that the questions themselves in that section, even the safer ones, were improvable, and they did that. So that might be something that we open up to consultation. But those 4 questions, as a starting point, we would not include them.
Thank you very much for that, Sam, and thank you for all your work behind this paper, because it really is informative, and it does answer the questions that people and I'm sure councillors in the committee would have in terms of this, considering the way it was portrayed the last time. So thank you very much for all your work around this, and I really do think that it is a useful tool in terms of finding out more about the health and well-being of the pupils in our schools and the young people in our schools, to be able to take our work forward, your work forward, and especially in the time that we're in around mental health and stuff like that. So thank you so much. If there's no other questions, then I am going to ask the committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much for that. The agenda item number 7 is the Education Resource Plan 2024-25, which is in pages 37 to 56, and I'll ask Anne to take that report.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the Education Resource Plan 24-25 for approval and to note the monitoring arrangements. Section 3 gives the background to the report, and paragraph 3.2 highlights that the resource plan is a key element of the Council's performance management arrangements. It provides details of the context within which the resource operates and establishes actions and measures for the year ahead based on the priorities and outcomes set out in the Council Plan Connect for the period 22 to 27. Paragraph 3.4 notes that in addition to reflecting the aspirations of the Council Plan and Community Plan, It is complemented by the details of individual service, business and other plans. Ultimately, these details are included in the key work objectives of individual officers and demonstrates the golden thread woven through work activity and performance management, ensuring a clear understanding of the Council's vision, values, priorities and outcomes at all levels of the organisation. Paragraph 3.5 describes the current format for performance reporting and 3.6 describes the approach to risk management and control. At paragraph 3.7, members are asked to note that following approval at individual resource committees, all resource plans will be presented as a pack to the Executive Committee on the 26th of June for noting. Section 4 offers detail on the Education Resource Plan 24-25, which is attached as Appendix 1. In paragraph 4.1, it's highlighted that the plan is structured around 5 headings. There's an introduction, key areas for the year ahead, resource outcomes, measures and actions, and resourcing the plan. Paragraph 4.2 notes that the resource has developed a series of performance measures to support achievement of the outcomes detailed in the plan, which is set out in section 4. Key measures will be included in the Council's Connect Progress Reports 24-25, with the rest being monitored at resource level. Paragraph 4.3 highlights that as part of the performance management arrangements, the committee will receive a mid-year update of progress on the measures covering the period April 24 to September 24, known as Quarter 2, and an end-of-year progress report covering the full year April 24 to March 25, known as Quarter 4. Section 5 notes that in terms of employee implications, the outcomes noted within the resource plan informs service action plans where applicable, and in turn the performance appraisal for individual employees, again illustrating the golden thread. Financial implications are noted in section 6. Members are asked to note in paragraph 7.3 that Education Resources has a specific priority on empowering learners to shape and influence action on climate change and sustainability, and will therefore report on progress and in addition that this priority aligns closely with the priority in the youth strategy, which reflects the voice of children and young people. Turning back then to the recommendations at section 2, committee is asked to approve the following recommendations. That the Resource Plan 24-25 attached as Appendix 1 be approved. That the Resource Plan 24-25 be uploaded onto the Council's website following consideration by this committee. That following committee approval, all resource plans will be presented to Executive Committee on the 26th of June for noting. And that progress reports on the Resource Plan 24-25 be provided at Quarter 2 and Quarter 4 to future meetings of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Anne. The recommendations are on page 37. Is there any questions? Councillor Lydon.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Anne, for going over that. It's just a brief comment, thinking in the context of the last couple of reports we've heard. It's obviously very detailed resource plan, which is going up there, and spoken about the golden threads that's running through things as well. And just while I was listening to the last comments, talking about behaviour in schools and relationships in schools as well. None of this is not connected. You know, it's all interconnected. We know there's an Action for Children report recently on the cost of living, which was talking about when more children are going to school hungry, or there's other challenges in their life or at home that means they're going in more anxious or stressed. They bring those with them to school. There's similar challenges in England and Wales just now. There's still children going through the system and young people going through the system who've had missed transitions at key points. You can see this in OECD data as well. So while obviously we're talking about the education resource plan as well, it's really good to see all of these links, because it's into health, it's into justice, it's into social justice, and everything as well. So it's also a call back to the last paper about the importance of collecting data. So on both of those points, look forward to hearing more from those reports. Thank you for this one.
Eileen.
Thanks, Chair. I absolutely agree that there's nothing should be in silos anymore within councils, health boards, police, whoever it happens to be. It has to be a collective voice, and everything has to get fed in to the collective voice. It's not a child that's 5 or 6 or 7 who doesn't go to school. It's usually circumstances within the house that it makes the problem that the child maybe doesn't get out in time or whatever. So it's not just the school or it's the school's responsibility, it is the responsibility primarily of the parent, and if the parent or carer or whoever has difficulties, then there is other resources that has to be tapped into. And right through today, as was said, I think it's right that we collect data and we see, you know, the broader picture. But on the communication and engagement, I'm looking at page 46, 2.8. Although we put out our communication and engagement in different things, as somebody who goes to quite a few, I think it's 7 or 8 schools we have within my ward, and others will be the same, it tends to be the same parents and guardians or whoever who come to see parent councils, and you get to know them actually quite well. You know, you have a chat and that's great because they are putting forward ideas and various things. But I always think there's something missing somewhere about communication. So is there any other methods? I was reading that, you know, that's fine, the parent councils, children, etc. But the children who usually come forward are not maybe necessarily the children that you would like to get to engage with or see. So I hope that we continue with communication engagement, because I think it's very, very important, not just in the school, but a communication engagement with everywhere, young carers, whoever it happens to be. But I think that out of the lot, for me, is a very important part of your presentation today, is how do we get in to communicate and engage with as many people as we possibly can, not just people who, you know, come on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eileen. Very valid points raised. If there is no other questions, I'll ask committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 8 is 2024-25 Early Learning Childcare Sustainable Rate Price Review, which is pages 56 to 62. And I'll ask Jacqueline, who is seat 9, apparently. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to provide committee with an outline of the work undertaken on setting the early learning and childcare sustainable rate for funded providers for implementation from 1st April 2024. Section 3 of the report outlines the background, and paragraph 3.3 details the Scottish Government announcement to provide local authorities with an additional £16 million in 24-25 to fully fund the estimated additional costs associated with enabling early learning and childcare workers in private and third sector services to be paid at least £12 per hour, the new living wage rate from April 2024. This will also apply to all childminders who deliver funded early learning and childcare, and the funding will be recurring. Paragraph 3.4 explains the formula for the allocation of the funding using the current needs-based early learning and childcare funding distribution formula following agreement by COSLA leaders. South Lanarkshire's allocation of the £16 million is £994,200. Section 4 references the guidance, and paragraph 4.2 confirms the agreed approach for passing on the additional funding. A minimum 7.6% uplift will be applied to 2023-24 rates to reflect the estimated increase in the average staff cost element of the sustainable rate required to meet the £12 per hour pay commitment. Paragraph 4.3 highlights the responsibility of the local authority in setting the sustainable rate and the requirement for the funded providers to determine if the rate is suitable for them and their business. The proposed cost to South Lanarkshire Council of the 7.6% increase to funded providers based on the guidance is anticipated to be £1.215 million as per paragraph 5.1. I would then refer you to paragraph 5.2, which sets out the South Lanarkshire Council proposal with an increase of 7.6% applied across the rate for 3 to 5 year olds and 2 year olds.
No increase is proposed for the lunch rate of 50p for 2024-25, as no funding is provided to support this. Section 6 of the report outlines the consultation process required and the initial consultation undertaken, with a further meeting scheduled with providers following committee. In line with the requirements for procurement, all funded providers will be invited to agree the rate change applicable from 1st April 2024. Section 7 outlines the timeline for implementation, and paragraph 7.2 highlights the point that the rate will be backdated to 1st April 2024. Section 9 outlines the proposed additional cost to South Lanarkshire Council in implementing the guidance. And Section 11 gives an overview of the associated risk with the implementation of the sustainable rate and its affordability over the coming years without appropriate financial support. I would now like to refer committee back to Section 2 of the report and the outcome of the sustainable rate review, and ask committee that the content of the report and the outcome be noted, and that the recommendation in paragraph 5.2 for the proposed sustainable rate to be approved in order for the requirements of the procured service agreement for early learning and childcare to secure funded providers agreement is progressed in line with the framework terms. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Jacqueline. The recommendations are on page 57. Is there any questions? No questions, so can I ask the committee to agree the report? Thank you very much. On to the items for noting. Agenda item number 9 is 2022-23 school leavers update, which is pages 63 to 66. The recommendations are on page 63. Is there any questions? Councillor Loudon.
Thanks, Chair. Yep, this is really good report. There's a lot of good news in here. I just wanted to squeeze in quickly because we don't have celebrating success or anything today. We're obviously right in the middle of exam season at the moment. For me as a parent, this is the first time I've been through exam season from this way round. It's Nat 5 history this afternoon, so looking forward to that one being over. But I think it's just worth noting that for the cohort who are at Nat 4, Nat 5 stage this year, they are the cohort who had that very interrupted transition into high school. It was during lockdown. They didn't get that same level of support. And I just wanted the opportunity to put it on record that the support which I've seen my child receive, I've seen his peers receive as well, has been absolutely fantastic on every level, from his individual PSAs and teachers to the rest of the school, the learning community, and the support that's come from the council as well. It's really commendable, and good luck to all of those who are still suffering. Not long now. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Katie. And good luck to everybody who are sitting their exams. Some people will already be finished and enjoying the sunshine, but there's obviously a lot of people that a lot of young people that are still sitting them. So good luck to that, and I hope they're studying in the sunshine out the back. If there's no other questions, then I'll ask committee to agree the report. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 10 is award of grant, the Clore Duffield Foundation, pages 67 to 70, which is recommendations on page 67. Is there any questions? Councillor Susan?
Hi, yeah, not a question, just to say, yeah, I was really pleased and excited reading that agenda item. Fantastic, and I just wish St Columbkille all the best, and what a great opportunity. And going back to my own days, long time ago now, as a former primary school teacher, back when education budgets were far healthier than they are today, we used to bring in specialists for expressive arts like PE professionals, arts, music, and the skills that the teachers learn from that and that you use throughout your whole career after that, you know, that you tap into them all the time. So a fantastic opportunity. Yeah. I was just so happy to read that, and I'm so excited for them. Yeah. So good report.
Thanks, Susan. It is really exciting. It's really brilliant that it's happening. I think Anne had updated that it's going really well, and the school is really finding it a really useful thing to do. So it's absolutely brilliant. And it's lots of money, which is from an outside organisation to make things better, which is absolutely excellent. So brilliant, and it'll be really exciting to hear how that goes at the end of the term. So if there's no further questions, I'll ask the committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 11 is the Curriculum Strategy 2023 to 26 for primary schools, which is pages 71 to 82. The recommendations are on 71. Is there any questions? No questions. Can I ask the committee to agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 12 is South Lanarkshire Council GENI in Education, which is pages 83 to 92. The recommendations are in page 83. Is there any questions? Councillor Loudon. Oh.
That me? Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, really fascinating report, this one. Obviously, in terms of sort of hot takes in the media and the press on anything to do with AI and education, it tends to focus on plagiarism, which understandably is a concern that I know a lot of institutions, HE and FE institutions, have. I hope when we get something back, it will reflect some of the good stuff and the interesting stuff and the exciting stuff that young people can do with it as well. When I was reading it, I was thinking about Turnitin, and I know there'll be a shudder from anyone that's been at university or college in the last 20 years or so. That's software that checks similarity, but programmes like GPT are getting exponentially cleverer. Basically, so then software like that has to sort of race to catch up, and in some tests similar software has actually found it quite difficult to spot plagiarism, or it's that idea of what counts as plagiarism. If you're using something like Grammarly to improve your grammar, does that get flagged as AI, so is that therefore cheating? And really interesting sort of developments here, which there'll obviously be a lot of conversation about. I just wondered, because it mentioned the West Partnership, do we know if the West Partnership have had any contacts with FE and HE institutions in the area to ask about their experiences, or is that something that we would maybe consider when we're looking at writing sort of South Lanarkshire policy and procedures in this, if we'd have contact into FE and HE just to find out what they're doing?
I'll bring Stuart in this, our AI expert.
AI expert, I just typed in ChatGPT, can you prepare me a paper? It's apparently quite a good job. I've not read it myself, but I'm told it's very good. No, thanks very much. You're absolutely right. I think what we see here are some of the potential risks or difficulties, but plagiarism's no new. This is just an even easier way to apply it, and you're right, a more difficult way to detect. And I think that what we've got is, throughout the system, I've been in conversation with SQA as well as colleagues elsewhere to look at this. ADES is picking up a piece of work which is pulling together all local authorities and the RICS, and will be engaging with colleagues from the various sectors. So yes, in short, there is discussion ongoing, and you can imagine the types of discussions that are taking place around a combination of factors. How do we protect the robustness and the integrity of our existing systems? How do we develop and adapt those systems to take into consideration some of the potential risks, but also the potential opportunities here? But there are other bits to this as well, and we think particularly around, you make reference to things like Grammarly. So how do we support young people who are up against it in terms of literacy levels, or in terms of things like dyslexia, where actually there are real positives and real benefits here? And more generally in the system, for a young person to take a piece of work that they've done and write and throw it through a generative AI model to get feedback, appropriate feedback and helpful feedback, rather than a straightforward plagiarism. So there's a lot of work to be done. This is really an early attempt to say we're aware, and to let our colleagues in our schools know, here are broad parameters, here are the things for us to consider, and we are going to continue to progress the work through ADES in particular, who are, I suppose, coordinating a national approach to this, and we will keep a very close eye. I would say that colleagues in this building, in South Lanarkshire Council, who have prepared and done the groundwork for this paper, are taking a lead within the West Partnership, and indeed are very active in terms of the approaches we're taking. Thanks.
Thanks, Stuart. That's really helpful, and I suppose it is easy to look at the negatives, but actually the positives is really useful and really exciting as well. So thank you very much for this paper. It really it made me have a wee think about it. So that's great. If there's no further questions, then can I ask the committee to agree the report?
Agreed.
That's great, thank you. Agenda item 13 is consultations, which is pages 96 to 146. The recommendations are on pages 93. Is there any questions? Councillor Loudon.
Thanks, Chair. I suppose it's just a bit disappointing that these are away. I know that in housing, for example, consultations, they'll try to get them to come through committee first of all before they would go out. I take it it's just a matter of timing that we've not been able to see these before committee.
Yeah. Carol.
So I think we're playing catch up, Councillor Loudon. We haven't brought consultations formally to committee before, so this is an attempt to kind of get to a level playing field, but you're absolutely right. As we move forward, our aim would be to get consultations before they are submitted and allow some meaningful dialogue. But sometimes the deadlines are quite tight. We've missed a committee cycle, so that is absolutely the explanation, and thanks for your understanding.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, can I ask the committee to agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 14 is the notifications of contracts awarded from the 1st of October to the 31st of March, which is pages 147 to 150. The recommendations are on pages 147. Is there any questions? No questions. Can I ask the committee to agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I have no notification of any urgent business, so I will ask for the meeting to be closed. Thank you very much for your attendance.